Doesn't get much better than this. A business dream that started with a drawing on a napkin to ringing the bell in the Big Apple.
I always say, don't let anybody tell you that you can't do something, or if your idea is so crazy, that just means you're right on track.
Meet the Hoosier native and Ball State grad whose Fishers-based company beat Amazon and others to the punch to get pole position as a leader in driving high-tech drone delivery. Arrive AI CEO Dan O'Toole, my guest this week on the Business and Beyond podcast, presented by PNC. And I'm pleased to be joined on the podcast this week by a very busy guy, a serial entrepreneur, the founder of Arrive AI, Dan O'Toole. Dan, great to see you, and thanks for taking the time.
Gary, thanks for having me, and thanks to your viewers and listeners out there.
Yeah, you have been, as I said, a very busy guy. Opened the NASDAQ Stock Market just a few weeks ago, which had to be quite a thrill. Let's jump right into it. Fast forward, we'll talk about how this all happened and how it was developed. But you have essentially gone from sketching out a business idea on a napkin to opening the NASDAQ Stock Market. Tell me what that was like.
It's I don't even know how to describe. I'm still pinching myself, Gary. It's just, am I really here? You know what I mean? There's only 39 public companies in Indiana. It's really rare air to have an idea worthy of being traded on a public market. Just that alone is like winning multiple lotteries. And then to execute on that, which is one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. And then to be here at the summit, which is an interim summit, because it's really just a beginning as well. Yeah. But to take a minute here and enjoy and take it all in, it's amazing. I can't believe it.
Yeah, you opened your first day of trading at $40. I know you had a lot of people who have supported you along the way with you at NASDAQ for that opening bell, if you will. What was that feeling, that vibe like?
Couple things. One is it was such a long journey to get there. And we had multiple deals along the way that didn't culminate for one reason or another. And the thing that kept us going was we always thought we were closer than we really were. And when you look back and see you weren't really as close as you thought, had you known that, would you've had the staying power? But yeah, with tons of help, just an amazing journey. So proud to be there. And now look at what we have in front of us. It's just amazing.
Okay, want you to explain the business model, if you will, for Arrive AI. You began as Drone Deck a number of years ago, and I remember very well having you on the show a couple of times. In fact, I remember one of your prototypes in studio, right? And leaving the studio, one of your guys dropped it and broke it, if I remember right.
Yeah, it's funny when you said that was the immediate image that popped in my head before you said that, Gary. It was such a big milestone moment to get that first prototype, and that's what that was. And to have that thing shattered into 100 pieces on the way out the door. I'm just glad we did it on the way out and on the way in.
Not before that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I remember at the time it was drone delivery. It was taking packages by drone and dropping off in a mailbox. The idea sounded at that time so far out there. It sounded very cool. It's so far out there. Talk about what Arrive AI is today. And as I get it, that last mile package delivery, you're using drones, robots, artificial intelligence. Give folks a kind of a layman's description of artificial AI or of Arrive AI.
Absolutely. First, you're right. We did start out as Drone Deck. And what happened was people always said, hey, how many drones do you guys have? And we said, not the drone with the Drone Deck. And then what if people shoot down your drones or whatever, or not the drone? So what became apparent was we were highly tethered to drones and nothing else. And that wasn't really what we were about. We wanted a name that was more aspirational, more and less limiting, and said, hey, here we are. Arrive is a great name. And we're reducing, in layman's terms, it's mailbox 2.0. We're reducing friction between people, drones, and robots. We're holding up this new delivery paradigm that we call asynchronous delivery, which means right now, if you're on Purdue's campus and a Starship robot rolls up with your food delivery, you have to be there to greet it and to remove the items, right? With us, notifications, chain of custody, authenticated delivery, anything can deliver or get picked up on its own pace. You can arrive at your own pace, and nothing is tethered to everything else. It's everything working autonomously on its own pace. And that's where we think delivery really needs to be.
As you look at or think back to coming up with the idea, you were literally, as I recall, mentioned you sketching it out on a napkin, but you were driving out in the country, right? When this kind of epiphany hits you to come up with this idea.
Yeah, I was coming back from a business trip in Chicago. I was on Highway 47 over by Sheridan, 2-lane rural road, cornfields on both sides. You're daydreaming on the way back from a 3-hour drive, right? And so he just happened to be flying a drone, thank God, right next to me. It just caught my vision, and it was like, oh, somebody's flying a drone. And then I just started thinking about the fact that drone delivery was really something that was just really being talked about for the very first time. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to just cut to the end of the line here. The notion of all this autonomous delivery happening is great, but I also believe it's a non-starter, that if every item to be shipped, whether picked up or delivered, ends or starts on the ground, I don't think that's a good strategy. But every day right now, Gary, there's 1.7 million packages stolen here in the US. If you have this whole new industry of autonomous delivery, you're most certainly going to have a whole new industry of autonomous delivery theft. And then I started thinking, what if you engineered the new mailbox for autonomous delivery? How could you make it the best ever? And the rest of the way home, which is about a 30-minute drive, I started thinking about dozens of things. And by the time I got to my house, when your mind is overflowing, you want to run in and get all these things off your mind so you don't forget one of them, right? So I ran in, I ran past my wife. I said, Stacy, I've got this idea I got to go deal with. So I wrote it all down. I called my patent attorney. I said, hey, John, Monday morning, this was a Friday, I said, I want to file a patent. I don't want to do a patent search. I don't want to lose that time. I don't want to do a provisional. I just want to jump in on this utility patent immediately. And I've had experience with losing ideas. I had an idea for a new revolutionary remote control for a TV, and I went to file for a patent for that, and Sony had beat me by a month. I had an idea for a revolutionary medical device, and I went to file, and General Motors had beaten me by 3 months. So when one person really has an idea, it's not a cliche, it's really actually reality, that when one person has an idea, 10 people literally have that same idea. And it really proved to be true, because when my patent issued, it revealed that I had beaten Amazon by 4 days. I beat the Postal Service by 2 weeks. I beat another company by 22 days. They had no idea I was out there. They tried to buy us out and we couldn't come to terms. Here we are.
You obviously felt very strongly about the idea. Talk about the bumps along the way, the failures, the false starts, maybe those typical things that happen to every entrepreneur. And especially when you're doing something that's, I would say, somewhat revolutionary, you had to have had a few bumps on the road. Talk about those.
Yeah, bumps are a part of it, right? I wouldn't trade one bump for not knowing, and those make you better. The first premise I would say, Gary, is if you have a revolutionary, futuristic idea and people don't think you're crazy, you're too late. So that's a great premise. So embrace the craziness. I always say, just being pragmatic, I think everything's 12% to happen. And what I mean by that is, don't get your hopes up. Don't be overly optimistic. Be real. And if it doesn't happen, then you had your expectations aligned with reality. We had 3 deals along the way, from publicly traded companies to go public. And for one reason or another, none of those 3 culminated. Looking back in the moment, it hit us pretty hard, but you get excited about something. But looking back, it's the best thing that ever happened. The most recent one of those was a company called Roosh. It was a NASDAQ company. We were going to do a reverse merger with them, and that they ended up getting delisted before that deal happened. And looking back, it was the best thing that ever happened. After that happened, I'm a big guy, what I call optionality. I like to have multiple lanes going at the same time. You can't afford to find out you go down a road and it's a dead end. You're going to have 3 roads going at the same time so you can switch over. And when that happened, I said, we're going to go it on a limb. I don't want to sync up Arrive AI to anybody else's legacy. I don't know what I don't know about other companies out there and how they've conducted their business. I know how we've run this company. One of our secrets that really was successful for us is we ran this company as a publicly traded company from day one. In a lot of ways, we conducted PCAOB audits as a routine SOP, which nobody does that. We did crowdfunding. We had board oversight. A lot of things we did where it's better to be lucky than good. By nature of doing the crowdfunding, We ended up with 5,000 investors pre-public, which is really unheard of. We had a number of round lot, which are 100 shareholders or higher, which you need to go public. We had a great valuation. I always looked at this as a big opportunity. If you're selling a restaurant, you sell in terms of percentages, not shares. I always looked at this as a big opportunity. I always looked at things in the form of shares, not percentages. I always believe that your equity is your capital of development. And if you sell yourself out and give big chunks away and dilute yourself out, you end up dead on the side of the road with no dry powder. You do a disservice to everyone you took a dime from, your company, your family, your future. So just being very lucky. I think those are a great piece of advice. If anybody's looking to start a company and has a big idea, you need to look at it and you need to hold the line on that. When we did our first crowdfund on WeFunder, they really tried to beat us down on our valuation. And I believe that where you start has a lot to do with where you end. And I held very strongly to our valuation because of the idea, the IP that we have, very broad, comprehensive first position patents in this space that is going to revolutionize last mile. And it's turning out, they say that ideation runs about 9 years ahead of market. And I had the idea 11 years ago, and here we are public right now. So we're very early, but I think that is well aligned with what in the market typically.
Give me an idea of how big because you think this is a massive market and you think you can have a product, as I did a little research, you can have a product that's as common to consumers as a microwave or a smartphone.
Yeah, a couple things. One is the barrier to entry needs to be very low. So if everybody had to buy an expensive next generation mailbox, that would create a fragmented market that wouldn't get you your economy of scale. How do you defeat that? Like an Amazon Prime model subscription, very low monthly fee where your perceived value of what you receive is much higher than what you're paying. And that's how you defeat that. And 91% of all delivery is 5 pounds or less. So we transcend every use case. We can go in and just really saturate zip codes. And that's the strategy for rollout. Amazon has 55% market share, 1% market share for with each 1% that we get, that's $3.5 billion in revenue for our company. So it's substantial. It's the biggest market opportunity in the world. And I think we're going to execute very strongly on it. I think the market is seeing what we've seen for the last 11 years, and that's very validating. It's a very exciting time.
And you're beginning to do deals. I know we have covered some of those deals, one with an India-based company, as well as, I believe, Hancock Regional Health, another deal. And as we are speaking this morning, I think you just released this morning a new deal regarding secure deliveries in Antigua, very much global in nature. Talk about some of these deals and what they mean for the growth of the company.
Yeah, right now, Gary, crawl, walk, run. We want to get out there in a diverse way where we're doing use cases of different products, different geographies, all these different things. But we don't want to scale because right now what we're producing is going to be obsolete. We want to get the learnings, engineer those learnings into our next gen product. And we're in an industry where you're judged by your failures, not your successes. And what I mean by that is the expectation is always success. So if we deliver 1,000 times to your house and the 1,001st time there's a failure, that's what we're focused on. So we're learning in all these different climates, different partners, different payloads, all these kind of things. And we're taking all those learnings and we're making a bulletproof product that can stand 120 degree, a minus 10 degree, all these different things that hit you out there. And we're trying to build the best thing we can. And so when we do roll out and you see these lining the street everywhere you go, people are knowing with the success and reliability that they're getting.
How far out do you think it is before we will begin to see these mailboxes, your products, in larger quantities?
In the next 2 years, you're going to start seeing them pop up commonly. Right now, we've got specific use cases that we're doing, some here in the country, some in other parts of the world. The reason that we do go to other parts of the world is that in a lot of cases, they're advanced with their delivery because the restrictions aren't as high as they are here in the US. So we don't want to wait in a lot of those cases for that to catch up. So we're iterating in other places as well, but it's going to be everywhere. There's so many compelling reasons why you're going to want to have it, and the demand is going to pull it everywhere.
Yeah. One more question before we go to break, and that is your physical location here. I remember At one point, I think you were headquartered out of Fort Harrison, and that area in Lawrence. You've since moved. I think you're in Fishers. Talk about your headquarters operation.
Yeah, we started out in Lawrence, and we quickly outgrew our space over there. Even we had purchased a building and demoed it, and before we even moved in, we had outgrown that. And then there's a regime change in Lawrence, and it ended up not being the place for us. But moved to Fishers. We located over in Launch Fishers, which is a launch pad for burgeoning companies. But now that we've gone public, raised some capital, we're tripling our workforce. So we are looking to move to a larger facility. And in fact, we're actively in a search right now. I'm trying to stay in the Fishers area. We like Hamilton County. We like the area, the tech center, and it's what we're doing.
Hey, Dan, any particular industry? I know I mentioned the partnership with Hancock Regional Health. Is the life sciences or healthcare? Is there any kind of sweet spot that you see right now for your business?
Yeah, right now, healthcare is definitely the first mover. The high valued items, urgency, chain of custody, HIPAA, all these things are drivers. Healthcare is able to monetize and able to pay. And obviously that's something that we're looking and focused on. It's not a secret that some of our first use cases have been in the healthcare space. So we see that as a big area.
I have much more ahead with Arrive AI founder Dan O'Toole, where his entrepreneurial passion comes from, and why he lied about his age to get a job at Hardee's as a teenager. That's when the Business and Beyond podcast returns. Stay with us.
At PNC Bank, we're committed to making a difference in the lives of our customers and communities by helping them move forward financially. As a Main Street bank, we try to do right by our customers with every encounter. Our local teams offer personalized financial advice to help guide you in making the best decision. We're proud to be part of your community. PNC Bank. See how we can make a difference for you at pnc.com. Copyright 2022, the PNC Financial Services Group, Inc., all rights reserved.
We build Indiana. The Laborers International Union of North America builds and maintains roads, bridges, and other essential infrastructure that make us the crossroads of America. So thanks to LIUNA members' work, Hoosiers have a better quality of life, like access to utilities, easier routes to jobs, schools, or medical care, and deliveries keep moving. We build Indiana for good jobs and stronger communities. The Laborers International Union of North America. We are LIUNA.
Welcome back to the Business and Beyond podcast presented by PNC. My guest this week is serial entrepreneur and the founder of Arrive AI, here based in central Indiana, in particular in Fishers, Dan O'Toole. And Dan, again, for those who may be just joining us, give us that 50,000-foot view, pardon the pun, of Arrive AI and what you do in terms of package delivery.
Yeah, Arrive AI, in its simplest form, is Mailbox 2.0. Several features and benefits, 200 claims that we've either filed for or been awarded in our patents. Heated and cooled cargo area, charging station for notifications, live streaming video, reverse logistics, an emergency light feature, on and on, all kinds of things that you've never thought about before.
Mentioned you're a serial entrepreneur. Obviously, Arrive AI is your focus today, but you were able to fund this venture, at least in the first number of years, from the sale of a previous company. Talk about your background, if you will, from an entrepreneurial standpoint.
Yeah, working from a family, my dad was self-employed, and I always was to want to do something on my own. I always had a lot of ideas. Every time I'd have an idea, I write it down. My goal was to do every idea before I died. And I ended up having a list of over 200 ideas. I don't think I'm going to get there. Right?
Not going to get there. Okay.
Yeah. I got to say, when I took this company public and everything, I had a moment of just an emotional gush where I reflected on my own, history and all the ideas that I had tried, and it really just broke down and cried. I was like, man, I did it. And I can't believe all the things I did. I've got a list of values that I try to adhere to in business. One of them is persistence pays. And if you throw enough stuff against the wall, something's going to stick and all that. So I've tried a lot of things, and I would not trade one failure for not knowing. That's been my personal credo. The notion of not knowing, and at the end of your career, looking back and saying, what would have happened if I ever tried that? That's something you can never overcome. And I don't want to ever second guess any of them. So you try and fail, and that's worth everything. But I did sell a company called Facility Maintenance USA that I had started previous, and that we engaged in nationwide maintenance services for Fortune 500 multi-unit locations. We worked with corporate McDonald's, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, Panera Bread, Hardee's, PF Chang's, JC Penney, a lot of big companies. And, what I realized was large, sophisticated companies, they realize that keeping things going up to their brand standards is everything. A franchise guy might have a coffee machine broken and he'll send 10 contractors and try to figure out the least expensive. Corporate McDonald's sends the right guy in and gets it done the first time and keeps their brand standards. So I developed a great nationwide network of outsourced companies that I worked with. I could respond to 100 locations simultaneously if I needed to. And so then I put that company up for sale when I had this idea. I thought, this is the biggest thing I've ever had in my life. I got to do this. I went to my employees first and let them know what I was doing. I offered the company to them. I always know that when people are selling businesses, they're sneaking around at night, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be forthright. I went to my guys, made them an offer, and felt I gave them a great formula that they could succeed with. At the end of the day, it was still a little much for them. They didn't pull the trigger, but that gave me the opportunity to openly sell my company. One of our vendors that we worked with throughout the company came in and bought us out. And I said, hey, I'll offer you the same deal. I did my employees. He goes, no, I think I'll be overpaying. I want to pay it. I want to give you all the money right now, which was great for me. And that really gave me the chunk of change to really execute on a live AI and build this thing. I funded it for the first 6.5 years on my own pocket. It goes back to my philosophy of not taking the short money. I wanted to build it until it became investable in the eyes of others. And it's just funny how that worked out. One of my good friends, Dave Schwimb, a guy around town here, I had 25 engineers working every day in India for me. And I had a big payroll and I was really starting to struggle. And I just said to myself, wow, I could sure use some help. And in that very moment, he came to me and he goes, hey, Drone Deck. I said, yeah, what about it? He goes, I want in. I said, Dave, for the last 6.5 years, I haven't asked one person to put one dime in. He goes, I know. I said, I'm not soliciting you. He goes, I'm soliciting you. And he ended up putting $200,000 and he was my very first customer, or the investor came in with a $58 million valuation. And then we were off to the races. We started our first funding at that point. It started at a valuation of $123 million. It concluded at a valuation of $223. We did a 2-for-1 split of our shares, which is virtually unheard of in crowdfunding. And then we did 2 successive crowdfunding raises after that. And here we are public today with a $40 million capitalization.
Your passion for entrepreneurship and your thoughts, your vision on work and life, all those things, obviously, from my research, seems to have been grounded or come from growing up as a youngster. I think you grew up in Noblesville. And a story I was interested in hearing from you is, I believe your dad perhaps lost his job and you went to work at a Hardee's at the age of 15. You lied about your age to work there to help essentially support things. Talk about that and what that was like. And as you reflect back on it now, what it means to you now.
Yeah, no, thanks, Gary. Yeah, I was 15. My dad lost his job. I remember the day very blatantly. I was getting ready to go to school and I came downstairs and my mom and dad were crying and my dad had lost his job. And as a kid, what does that mean? That's uncertainty. So I went to school, but then I came home and I said to my parents, I said, hey, I want to go get a job. And they didn't ask me. My parents were proud, but I felt I'm part of the family. I want to help out. So I went to Burger Chef. Actually, it was Burger Chef at that point.
Okay, yeah.
And I went to Burger Chef and I said, hey, can I work here? They go, how old are you? And I said, I'm 16. And they said, here's your paperwork. We'd like to hire you. Go get a food handler's permit. So I went to get that. And that was revealed that I was real 15, not 16. So I hit that up to I had to go back, say, hey, I'm sorry. I lied. I wanted the job. They go, call us back when you're 16. I said, okay. So I went home and the next week they called me and they said, hey, do you still want that job? I said, yeah, I'm 15 though. I'm still 15. They go, we can work around that. So I started working at a Burger Chef at 15 and every week I came home, I gave my mom and dad my paycheck and yeah, I'm proud of that. They're not proud of it. My dad's passed on since then, but yeah, my mom was like, we never wanted to take, I said, Mom, I know it's our family. So
As you reflect back on that many years later, that has to be a pretty special memory and part of maybe what drives you in your business environment.
Yeah, I like to own everything. I think I think a lot of people mail it in today. world has changed quite a bit. It's not what it used to be. And I think we have 4 kids, so I'm not dissing all kids or anything like that. But I think that society has definitely changed. The days of a handshake, integrity, working whatever it takes, not just 8 to 5 or whatever, and having that mindset, I think is really a loss for our society. I'd like to see it get back to more of a character situation. I think we need that. And that's what we do here at Arrive every day. One of the things that I did as we've raised money, I put my phone number out there to the world. It's the same number I've had for 35 years. I don't have a burner phone or anything like that. Now, I always feel like if we have the audacity to ask you to consider investing in our company, we darn well ought to be on the other end of a call, take a comment, suggestion, question, whatever it is. And I think that's really served us well. And that hasn't been a strategy or anything like that. It was just being genuine and being the company that we want to invest in. What do you look for when you invest? And that's what we want to be. Everybody could be your best friend when they're asking for money, but who's going to be there before, during, and after? The commitment here is you're always going to hear the good, bad, and ugly from us. Anybody can report great news, but when it's really tough and you have to look somebody in the eye and own it, that's where you really earn your medal, I think. And that's what we do here.
Looking out, Dan, over the next, say, 5 to 10 years, longer term, describe your vision for Arrive AI. You mentioned begin to perhaps seeing these mailboxes in a couple of years. As you look out 5 years, 10 years down the road, what's your vision? What do you see Arrive AI becoming?
If you look at the Fortune 100, 7 of the top companies are platform companies. We are a true platform. When you work with us, you get a platform and a network. And we think that is it's unparalleled out there. There's 165 million addresses just here in the US alone. That number grows by 4,000 new addresses every single day. That's a great ever-growing market. When you have a business, you're always trying to compare last year, this year, and always have an increase. We have a market that's increasing on its own. What if we could gain penetration within the market and grow organically with that growth? That's huge. We think that once we're going to have a cell phone moment. You look at a picture of a family, everyone's looking at their cell phone. That's pop culture today. When you start getting all the features and benefits that we offer, it's going to become part of the fabric of your world. And we think it's going to be very sticky. We think that because of our patents, our intellectual property, it's a very sticky product. It's installed, and it's something that you're going to have now and forever. Deliver on the value proposition where your perceived value is you're getting so much more than you're giving. Everybody's going to have one. That's what excites us. And there's so many things we can do, Gary. When you have the largest contiguous infrastructure with great connectivity throughout the world, what the majority of use cases have yet to be thought of. One of the things we say every day is there's more things we don't know about what we're going to do than we do know. And that's that makes it exciting every single day.
Final question for you. How about growing a company like yours in Indiana? There's been a push, and we've covered it. I've covered it a lot over 20 plus years, 25 years. And that is Indiana as an innovative state, as a state that supports entrepreneurs. You're growing a company here, obviously, technology focused company. How is it growing that company in the environment here in Indiana?
I think it's been challenging, just to be honest with you. Access to capital is not great. You're not thought of as a center for innovation typically. I will say I'm really proud of what we've built here and the team and the respect that we've garnered when we've dealt with Wall Street and these. And it's amazing. Sometimes you pinch yourself and you say, man, we're in the deep end of the pool here. We're holding our own, and it's quite validating. Just in candor, I will say it's been disappointing in Indiana. I think I could elevate Indiana as an example. I think that didn't really get a look like I thought we should have. I think it's embarrassing that that they're not on our cap table. A public company, number 39 on the whole state, and making a pitch at them a few times, and just I think didn't see a deep dive to really look under the hood and see what we were about. And I would say that I would hope that in the future take companies seriously that are making moves and getting traction out there. So that's going to help it. There we've got the Gary Dick show and the South Indiana, but and all that. For every negative, there's a positive, and you've given us a great audience to share our vision, and that means a lot to me. And so Indiana is a great place. At the end of the day, there's a lot. The cost of living is great. There's a great workforce. There's a lot of positives. But raising money to execute on a big vision is hard no matter where you are. And that's what we've been really fortunate to do what we've done.
Dan O'Toole is the founder of Arrive AI, now a publicly traded company. Dan, really great to catch up with you. I have a lot of good memories of interviews on the show, and also that prototype being broken in studio too, which wasn't so good. But you've certainly recovered from that, and certainly wish you all the best as you continue to grow this company and grow the profile of technology and innovation in Indiana. Thanks again, Dan.
Here, and I'll show you my crystal from NASDAQ. Got to ring the bell out there, and this is for
Very cool. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
very cool.
yeah. So,
Very cool. Congratulations. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
thanks, Gary. See you, man.
All right. And thank you for joining us on this episode of the Business and Beyond podcast presented by PNC. We're a weekly conversation with achievers in business, sports, entertainment, and beyond. And you can download all of our episodes and get Indiana business news 24/7. All you have to do is go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com. I'm Gary Dick. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.